And it was, what do people think they die from, that we die from? And when this poll was run in 2016, the public thought that 36% of death was due to terrorism, followed by 23% homicide, and then suicide, and then pneumonia and diabetes, and then cancer is up there. The reality is on the left. Heart disease is number one, followed by cancer, followed by accidents and respiratory disease, followed by Alzheimer's, and then stroke. So it's extraordinary the difference between public perception and reality, and that's playing into what's going on now in the current pandemic. So cancer, everybody worries about it. When I was a child, you would whisper it. Someone has this, you'd whisper it. Everyone was afraid of it. But the truth is that both through better and earlier detection and better treatment, the incidence of cancer had peaked somewhere around 1995 and has been declining since. So if you look at the rate of cancer deaths, both male, female, and all, they're declining. And here's a dramatic picture. If you look at cancer mortality per 100,000 population, from 1991 to 2017, there has been a significant decline, about a 25% decline. So some of the things we're doing, both with drugs, early detection, and surgery, are working. If you project these trends, ovarian cancer is projected in the next 10 years to drop by 40%, breast cancer by about 30%, colon cancer by about 20%, and prostate cancer by about 16%. So we're doing some things right. And that makes me feel good, except that the public perception is that we're all bad people in these horrible drug companies. Now, the other thing, since we just celebrated Rosh Hashanah, that I thought was important to mention is the very first mention in any written document of the use of quarantine is in the Torah, in the book of Leviticus, in the Pasha called Tazria, where Miriam had developed leprosy, and the priest has the person who's a leper move outside of the village, outside of the circle of where they're all living, and re-examines that person every 7 days to see if there's an improvement. So this is the first written historical text that isolates someone with an infectious disease. And then during the Black Plague, the Italians picked from the Old Testament, from our Chumash, the idea of 40 days and 40 nights as a way of isolating potential disease. So when ships would come into Venice, remember they were traders with seaports, they would have the ship sit at anchor in the harbor for 40 days before they could unload it. And that was to isolate the potential pestilence, they didn't know what it was, to isolate disease. And the Italian word quarantana giorna means 40 days. So the word quarantine actually comes from 40 days, but the concept comes from us. Now, there's been a huge rise in people who think that vaccines aren't good, and I want to talk about that. I remember lining up as a child 2 blocks from my elementary school to get my sugar cubes for my vaccine for polio. And polio is extraordinarily contagious. We're going to talk about relative transmission rates of viruses, but it swept through this town in the South, and virtually every child in that town got it. And this is a picture of children in iron lungs. And I don't ever want to see this happen in reality again, but this is what happens without vaccines. The other thing I say to anti-vaxxers is there is something called the herd effect. You're hearing about it a lot in the press. Even the president talked about it, didn't quite understand it, but talked about it. And the herd effect occurs when enough people are vaccinated so that those who can't be vaccinated, or enough people acquire a disease and acquire immunity, so that those who can't be protected have protection because the herd is largely immune. So I say it's like seatbelts. If someone wants to take their family out for a ride in a car without seatbelts, that's between them and the police. But If they don't get vaccinated, they're in essence exposing innocent babies who don't have mature immune systems, as well as people like us who are either older or immunocompromised, along with them in their vanities. So the herd effect's important, vaccination is important, and protecting those who otherwise can't be protected is very important in public health. So let's look at measles. Measles is a great case. The first measles vaccines came in the late 60s, early 70s. People were having chickenpox and measles parties a couple of years ago, which I think is bizarre because I know people who went deaf from measles. Measles is a serious disease. I developed a staph infection from chickenpox, and I had scarlet fever. I have damage from that. So, I mean, these are not benign childhood diseases. The first vaccines came in the late 60s, early 70s, and you see a little bump in the curves between 70 and 80. That's when we realized that booster shots were needed. So essentially, measles cases in the US went to zero in the 90s and stayed at zero until an amazing phenomena happened just last year, and that was a rise in measles cases. A lot of it in Rockland County in Orthodox communities because somehow people convinced them that there was TRACE in the vaccine, which of course there isn't. I worked for a company literally that developed vaccines, but we saw a spike in measles cases, which has now been pretty much beaten back. Now, pandemics require vigilance. We're going to talk about something called the inflection point in a pandemic. This is the population of medieval England, which was increasing from 1100, where it was about 1.8 million people, to 1300, where it was almost 5 million people. And then there's a little dip. Oftentimes with epidemics, there's an early onset and then a second wave. So you see that little dip and then a second wave between 1300 and 1350, that's what happened. And then the population is decimated. It drops from 5 million down to 2 million and stays there for 200 years. A big effect of that, of the bubonic plague. And this is Europe in the Middle Ages. So from 1300 to 1600, it took almost 300 years for the population to re-establish itself, to return to where it was. And that's how amazingly awful that plague was. It dropped the population by more than half, very deadly. So when I first wrote this talk in February, we were talking about this Wuhan coronavirus, and I left the slide in because some of it stayed accurate, and we were worried about the transmission rate. So if someone with the virus walks into a room and is exposed to other people, roughly how many other people can get that disease? And the fatality rate was estimated to be around 3%, and the transmission rate between 1.5 and 3.5. And so that's where we saw things all the way back in February. And we can contrast it to seasonal flu, which is about a 0.1 transmission rate. Common cold is even less, versus the Spanish flu on the top, which is very virulent, would be 10, or polio, which would be 10. So the spread and the deadliness are the two axes on this, and you can see where we thought this pandemic was going to be. And so if you look at it graphically, you can see just how virulent measles is and smallpox and polio are, and why they spread rapidly through cities in this country. And coronavirus is somewhere around 1.5 to 2.5, but that's not chicken feed. This was January of 2020. And we were looking at the growth rate when it was largely in China. This is again back in January. And we were worrying if the numbers were underreported. We were wondering if there was a second season. We were worrying about what was going to come next. Well, by February, it had gone from a handful of cases to 64,000 cases, and we were still being told it's just in China, it's just in China. And then, only 5 deaths as of February 16th, and so, everybody thought this was small and benign. Well, here we are by the end of May, it was 5 million cases. And now it's 7, by the way, so only in a few months. But here's the inflection point I've been talking about. At what point does public health have to intervene to prevent the spread? And that point, that inflection point occurred somewhere around March 22nd, but minus 14 days for the incubation period. So at the beginning of March is where we should have shut everything down hard, and we didn't. We only shut it down partially. And you can see how the infections went out of control since the inflection point. And so that's to me, a failure of public health. And it's retrospective, I know, and I'm not going to talk about politics, but it's basically showing what's going on. And by the way, these data come from Japan and their analysis of what's happened in the world. So if we now look at what's going on with COVID, the US has the highest number of cases in the world, around 7 million out of the 30 plus million. If you look at it in a little better graphic, we have more cases than India, Brazil, Russia. And by the way, I've been to India, where they spend on average $4 per person per year on public health. So you don't expect much in the way of public health in India, and they have a huge population and a huge poverty issue, and yet they have fewer cases than us. So that's telling me something about where we were with our management of this with the inflection point. If you look at how it's happened, so interestingly enough, we started to put control measures in place, and we did flatten the curve. If you look from March to June at what happened, it was declining, and we absolutely, as a society, flattened the curve. And then it got out of control. The summer came, kids went off from school, super spreader events started to happen, resistance started to happen, and there we are. And now we're declining again, and the question is what's going to happen next? So as of yesterday, 7 million cases in the US, 200,000 deaths, which is just under 3%, 4 million recovered. Now, the good news is that our therapeutic methods have improved significantly. So we know better how to treat patients today than we did in the beginning. So unfortunately, for those who got the disease early, their chances of survival were lower than they are now. If we estimate where this is going to end up by the year end, I don't mean end up, I just mean by the year end. Dr. Birx has publicly said that she expects 400,000 by year end. There's a typo in there. We were saying 200,000 when the March 11th Oval Office speech happened, but now they're saying 400,000. But what's astonishing about this is if you go back to my mortality tables from earlier in the talk, that means coronavirus is now the third leading cause of death in the US. And while cancer and heart disease death rates or mortality rates are not changing, coronavirus is accelerating. So God forbid it becomes equal to cancer and heart disease. We're pretty close. But that's the path we're on if we don't get a vaccine and we don't get better public health control of what's going on. So it is now the third leading cause of death. And for anyone who thinks this is a hoax, this is the chart to show them. So also, if you compare where we are with COVID-19 versus wars, more people have died from COVID-19 than all the wars up until World War II. And by the end of this year, we're going to be equal to World War II. That's astonishing to me. Spanish influenza killed 675,000 people. Population of this country was much smaller then, so as a percentage, it was a much bigger hit and had a bigger societal impact. But we're working in that direction, unfortunately. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is fatality, case fatality rates by age, which all of us ought to pay attention to. So this is fatality by decile. So less than 9 or 10 years, very low. 10 to 20 years, very low. 20 to 30, very low. 30 to 40, starting up. 40 to 50, somewhat. And we'll always hear the cases and the exceptions because these are averages. But once we get above 60, which is probably all of us, it starts to become a real issue. And above 70, even more so, and above 80, even more so, which is why we saw the issues in nursing homes. But it really is a fascinating phenomena. And the latest theory behind this is that most fatalities occur because we have mature immune systems and our immune systems overreact to the virus. And it's that overreaction that is causing people to get sicker. And it's probably because we have been exposed to other variations of this type of viral effect. Viruses tend to have multiple components, and we might have had earlier exposure to certain aspects of the virus in our lives, which has made our immune systems exquisitely sensitive to it, whereas children and those who are much younger have less exposure, and therefore their immune systems don't overreact as much. This is exactly the opposite of what happened in 1918. In 1918, the older generation was pretty much fine because we had gained some measure of antibody relief from an earlier viral influenza that had occurred about 20 years earlier, but it was the strapping young men coming back from war who were sick in the morning and dead by evening because they had no immunity. So we're having the opposite effect here. If we look at comparing this to flu, and this is why getting your vaccination is important, what we're now calling SARS-CoV coronavirus on the upper quadrant, it's about a 10% case fatality rate. Flu is about 0.1, 0.2%, but they present very similarly when someone gets sick. So to avoid that type of confusion and not getting properly treated, everyone should get their quadrivalent flu vaccine if you're above 65. So I want to close by mentioning why what we do is important. And I want to get back to the little boy on the Easter Bunny's lap with the little girl. By now, you've probably figured out that was me. I didn't talk until very late. I was a very late bloomer. My sister had Rocky Mountain spotted fever, either from a tick bite or a mosquito bite. She had encephalitis, which is a swelling of the brain. We lived in Allentown, about 60 miles north of Philadelphia. There was no internet. There were no clinical trials. Doctors read medical journals, and fortunately, we had a pediatrician who had read about a new drug that was available in Philadelphia. She was rushed with 108-degree fever to a hospital in Philadelphia where she was treated with massive doses of a steroid. The steroid indeed stopped the brain swelling, but then my parents were told that the side effect of that was glaucoma and that she was going to go blind. Now, my parents didn't give up on her. They took her from doctor to doctor until they found someone at Wills-Eye who said he would treat her for that side effect. And the end result was that they were able to stop the glaucoma. She did develop an incurable disease of the retina called uveitis. She is legally blind in one eye from that and has lost some vision in the other. And after being on medication for that for some 50 plus years, has degenerative bone disease, but she's still with us and has had a happy life and raised two wonderful children. And so, you know, why am I doing this? I do this because it's personal. It's very personal. And I think for most of us, it should be personal. Health should be a personal thing. And with that, I know I ran a little over. I want to open it up. If there are questions, I usually get questions about why do drugs cost so much? Why shouldn't we just import them? Why are generics expensive? And what about supplements and all of those kinds of things? But I know I ran over, so I apologize, Char, for that. And I'll open it up for questions if there's time.
Do people know how to raise their hands?
And I'm gonna stop the slides so that people can see each other.
Okay. Okay. Do you know how to raise your hand actually on your screen? There's a little hand that you can click on.
Oh, I don't remember how to do that.
All right. If you don't, just raise your hand.
Okay, I see some real hands. So Cindy, you're muted.
Unmute yourself.
I am. Hi there. I was fascinated by everything you said. And it struck home to me because I am allergic to both penicillin and statins. So I'm really interested in the other aspect of the, you know, health, lifestyle, so on and so forth. It absolutely fascinated me, not to mention the age group I'm in. But really, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Marty had her hand up.
Yes, I just saw yesterday, very timely, a whole discussion on the CRISPR. What are your feelings? And I want to thank you so much for your insightful discussion today. It was really, really very, very interesting. But when you talk about a body fighting itself, which, you know, is what is happening to some people with COVID, you mentioned that in the beginning. What gene therapy or whatever can be done with the CRISPR, or have you done any study with the CRISPR?
So CRISPR is a technology for splicing genes to insert or remove genes. I think of CRISPR being particularly important for genetic diseases. And so, you know, children who are born missing something or with an extra something, you know, the promise of CRISPR is to be able to edit those genes, but it's not without risk. So there, you know, anytime you make something drastic like that, you have to do it in very small controlled steps. I think what's going on with cytokine storm, which is the primary cause of reactions to COVID, is that our immune system is going into overdrive. And there are
Right.
other drugs designed to do that. We actually have one. Again, I don't want to talk about politics, but for small companies who are trying to get drugs into the clinic to test them, it is absolute pandemonium. I've written 3 letters to the editors to various newspapers suggesting that what we really needed was a Manhattan Project where we could coordinate what we're doing. Instead, the only therapeutic that is on the market, remdesivir, is on the market because Gilead blocked everyone else from getting into the clinic by paying $100,000 per patient to get their drug in the clinic. And those of us who can't afford to do that, who don't have those pockets, can't get in the clinic to test our drugs. So I don't care if they play those games with the 16th acne drug, but for a pandemic, it's immoral. But that's really what's going on in the front lines. And we need better therapeutics right now, and we're not paying any attention to it. Other questions?
Dr. Spector, I read this morning that there are 2 companies in the Ambler area that are presently working on a COVID vaccine. And they made a statement that there probably would not be one available for at least a year. Realistically, what do you think about the timing?
So let's look at the reality. We have 315 or so million people in this country, depending on how you count and who you count. Let's assume we had a vaccine tomorrow, and we won't. The logistics of dosing, you have to hit 90% of 315 million plus the 7 million or so who had the disease. So you have to hit 250 to 300 million people with a vaccine, and probably there'll be a booster. Just logistically, that's an extraordinary thing to do. Prevnar 13, we dosed every adult over age 65 in the Netherlands. And we did it at soccer fields. We didn't do it under restrictions with masks. Everybody was open. They had national health care. So when they went in for their flu shot, they got the flu shot, or they got the flu shot and our vaccine. It took 1.5 years. So, even if the military gets mobilized to vaccinate everybody, just think of the logistics that are going to be involved to do this, and the cold chain for manufacturing, and the logistics. It's going to be, I think, at least 1 year from when a vaccine is approved until we can get enough people vaccinated to feel more comfortable. That's the reality. It's just logistics.
Janet has.
Ellen Newman, you're muted.
I'm unmuted. Okay.
There you go.
But I want to go back to when we all took our vaccine on the sugar cube. How did they get all that vaccine and get it distributed so that we could all just line up and get it?
So I'll tell you, it was in waves, and the government, first of all, Jonas Salk gave away the vaccine. He did not patent it, so he gave it away. And the government anointed 6 companies or 8 companies to manufacture it. And so it was a concerted government managed effort under Eisenhower, by the way, who was a Republican, and it was managed across the entire country. Now, one company got it wrong. The original vaccine was an attenuated polio vaccine, and one company called Cutter had a bad batch, and some 1,800 kids got polio from it. So it's another reason why this has to be managed very well. But it was a huge logistical feat, and it was coordinated. What we have here in a free market approach, who knows? Sorry.
Janet had her hand up for a while.
Patty? You.
Me? Okay. You said something about the COVID vaccine virus attacks older people because of their vulnerability, what did you say?
The
You said
irony
it attacks
is,
us because of their age. They have more susceptibility. Could you
Well, the
elaborate
irony,
on that a little bit?
yeah, the irony is that you have two forms of fighting off a virus or a bacteria. You have antibodies and you have T cells. And the T cells learn, so they get over, as you age, your allergies, for example, change. As a child, I had no allergy to poison ivy. As an adult, I'm terribly allergic. It's because my T cells have gotten honed in to that allergen. So as you're exposed to things, your body's antibody system knows how to attack them, but your T cells also learn over time by exposure. Ironically, somehow or other, our age group has gotten exposed to some fragments of this vaccine in the past, which makes us, you would think, better equipped to fight it off. But what happens in some people is the immune system goes into overdrive, and that immune system then attacks healthy tissue as well. And that's why we see massive organ failure. That's what cytokine storm is. It's the antibodies in the body attacking itself. And children who don't have as well developed immune systems, ironically, have less susceptibility to that happening. That's the current explanation that I understand. It makes sense scientifically. I hear lots of things that don't, but that's the current one. And I see Barbara and then Sherry. So Barbara, you're on mute.
Right. And also Janet, I think you had your hand up.
Should I speak? Okay. Thank you so much, because I think this was absolutely outstanding and we've all learned so much. What's interesting, when I looked at the chart of life expectancy, I saw the countries that you had there: Japan, Singapore, Canada, and most of these countries, I guess my question has to do with the longevity. Is it diet, or is it the fact that so many of these do have universal health care? Could you comment on that?
I think that would be another 2-hour talk. Public health is a combination of many things. It's a combination of policy. So example, smoking, which we have finally done a good job of in this country. Access to healthcare, prenatal care. So it's very complicated. But it's disappointing to see the nation that spends the most and probably has the most advanced science ranking so low. That's the conclusion. Sherry and then Janet, because I
Okay.
thought Janet. So Sherry.
Recently, I think it might have been in this Sunday's Times, there was an article about some of these vaccine companies that have been already making the vaccines and storing them. I mean, is this something that's safe? I just don't know.
Yeah, well, clearly, when I worked for Letterly and we made flu vaccine, we would always pre-manufacture before
Right.
all the testing was done, because again, you had to be ready for flu season, and the CDC would tell us what strains needed to be in it. Sometimes they got it right, sometimes they didn't. But they're expending their own money and betting that they're going to have it right, but you know, it still has to go through testing before they can release it. So they can manufacture in advance all they want. They still need approval to actually sell it.
Thank you. By the way, this was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Janet?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. This was amazingly terrific and informative. I had 2 questions. I forgot what the first one is. But the second one is, if and when there is a vaccine, are we going to have to pay for it considering the country we live in now? Or is that going to be anybody can get the vaccine like it used to be?
I don't know the answer because I'm not running the government. I can tell you that 2 of the vaccine manufacturers negotiated prices with the government. And the price was around $38 for 2 doses, meaning a dose and a booster. And I thought those were going to be paid for by the federal government. So I know Pfizer, that was the deal that they cut. And I think that was the deal that Moderna cut. You know, I can't answer that, but even if it was $38, I think most people would figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
other, Judith?
Judith? Can you unmute?
And I see
Yeah, now I
Susan.
am. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. With regards to all the statistics that you showed us and the many charts, it's very impressive that the country of Sweden took a totally different approach to how it wanted its population to be exposed and has a totally different set of statistics as to those results. Would you care to comment about that with regards to the way we are supposed to be exposed or not exposed?
So the good news is that they recognized the herd effect being an issue right up front, and they said,
Yes.
let everybody get exposed through sort of natural exposure. The bad news is that their mortality rates in older population were high. So
That was nursing home, yes.
yeah, so you have to make a decision in terms of leadership. What are you willing to do or not do? And culturally, what are you willing to accept and not accept? And so the Sweden experiment is going to be studied for years. And is it acceptable to say that we're going to let people above a certain age die because we think that that's the best approach to public health? I don't think it is, but it's personal. And it's a hard thing to have come to grips with. But yeah, that is indeed the way they chose to manage this. And Susan, I see you're on mute. You're on mute.
My question, there are 2 questions that I have. One is, how many cases do we need to establish the efficacy and the safety? And what's the time profile for that? So that would be question number 1.
Okay. So most of the studies that are being done, the minimum number of patients that are being studied is 30,000. Pfizer just upped theirs to 40,000. I think that's the bare minimum to have statistical validity for a trial for a vaccine. I personally would like to see a bigger number. Prevnar 13 for community-acquired pneumonia in adults was done with 85,000. And even then, it took a year and a half to almost 2 years until we had enough data to conclude that it worked. So I'm a little concerned, but it's a worldwide pandemic, so rules are getting bent and shaved. And then there's the concern about what's the side effect profile. You know, we don't have one vaccine. We have 6 or 8 vaccines going on, and they're not all the same, and they're not all the same technology. And so tracking that is going to be a huge problem. You had a second question?
My second question is, when we look at data with the number of deaths in a given country, should we be looking at the population size of the country and evaluating it in terms of a relative number?
Of course, we should be looking at per capita data, and we should be looking at what's called case-based data, so that there's more to it. But we're generalizing just because of the time. And we should be looking at cohorts. You're absolutely right, and we could probably spend a lot more time delving into those data.
Thank you. Thank you for your information and for your presentation.
Thank you.
Dr. Spector, we have time for one more question. I think Ellen Newman had a question.
I do. It's more of a comment. When you said the cost would be about $38, and you said most of us could do it because of the necessity, but there are families for whom $38 a person is an overwhelming expense, and we have such a a difference between what middle-class people can afford and what poor people can afford. And we've got a racial disparity here too, in terms of money, that $38, there's got to
Well,
be.
and that's per person, and so you're very right to point that out. And if you looked at the earlier charts that I had that show that the real racial disparity in mortality rates in this country, it is a problem. I'm not the government. I'm just telling you what the deals that I'm seeing that are being cut are for in terms of cost. My assumption is that the federal government is paying those prices to the drug company or the vaccine manufacturer, and that the federal government's going to have some kind of a program for how they're going to distribute this, and if it's going to cost us as citizens, if it's going to cost us anything. I don't know the answer. I do know that they're looking at who gets vaccinated first and how to manage that. But in terms of the cost per individual citizen, I don't know the answer.
Thank you, Dr. Spector. I think everyone will agree with me. This was a wonderful presentation, so informative.
Bravo, bravo.
Bravo.
Much. I went
We
off
are-
a
we
little
are
long.
hon- we are honored to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm going to give you back your screen and sign off and have a great rest of the meeting.
I have one quick question, if I can ask you. Unfortunately, we are only able to record your presentation from the middle, but do you have any objections to us putting portions of it up on our Facebook page?
I don't have a problem. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not kind of a Facebook person. I don't have a problem as long as there's nothing political about it.
Right.
So that's my only proviso.
Okay, we thank
try
you.
and
But
stay
it
neutral.
definitely would not be political.
Okay.
Thank
But,
you. Thank you
anyway.
again, and have a wonderful time visiting your grandchildren.
And good luck with all the good work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'd like to ask everyone to please stay with us for the next portion of our program. We are going to be uninstalling our officers who are leaving and installing our new officers. And we also are going to be honoring our co-presidents, Barbara Nussbaum and Cindy Pashery. And I want to give the program over to our two co-presidents, starting with Barbara, who has some very important things to say to all of us. Barbara, unmute yourself.
And Cindy.
And Cindy.
I did.
Okay.
So did I. Okay. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, the first thing I want to say is thank you for the wonderful program, Char, and for all of you that worked on this. What I want to say to all of you that are on is that the past 3 years that I've been the president has been quite an honor and a privilege to be president of this wonderful, wonderful Greater Philadelphia section. We've accomplished a great deal over the past 3 years, but you cannot do this alone. No president, no leader can do anything alone if you don't have people there with you, working alongside you and supporting what it is you're trying to do. For me, what I can say is that I have worked with the most wonderful board of directors. The women on our board are not just a group of women that care about getting their name in limelights. They don't care about how much money they have and what they can contribute. NCJW is an organization of activists, people that care about their community and what is going on. So what I'm saying is that I may have had a certain vision, I think most presidents do, but you never do it alone. You do it with the help of others. All of our members have worked hard to make wonderful changes in our community and improvements. So I thank you all for all of that, because again, the things we've been able to accomplish, our expansion of our membership, our sustainability, our wonderful advocacy work and how it has increased our community relations, our press relations. We've been in the press so much and people know who NCJW is. And I think that that's so wonderful. Our programs, such as the one we have just experienced, have brought in new members and people see the work that we do. Our grants that we've given out to the community and our wonderful community services work, everything that we do in NCJW focuses on the NCJW mission of social justice and human rights. And everything that we have been doing in the community shows this and tries to support all of these things that we believe in helping women and children and families. The one thing I will also tell you is that I'm so delighted that our board and our committees have included women with very varied backgrounds now. Our board is quite diverse. Our committees also, we have women who have represented nonprofits, law, business, medicine, and it's reflecting a wider membership. And I think that that is wonderful because we're trying to show how inclusive we can be in what we are doing. I could go on and talk about all the great things that have happened and thank so many of you, but I don't have time to individually thank you. You all know who you are. You know what you have been doing here in the Greater Philadelphia section and what we do with our national organization. We are part of a national movement, a national organization. We are not doing this just alone in Greater Philadelphia. I'm calling you from Scottsdale, Arizona right now. And I can tell you, I already received a call today from my friends here. They're already calling senators and they're getting on the phone to try to do what we try to do back in the Philadelphia area. So we are a national organization, a national movement, and we will keep on doing everything that we have been doing. And as Star said at the very beginning, we may have lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but her work will continue, and we do the work that she has taught us and has talked about. I do want to leave you with something. Many times what I do is I go to some of my Jewish sources when I'm trying to think of what to say to all of you and what I believe in. And I found a text by Rabbi Hillel. It's not going to be the one that you think, you know, if I'm not for myself. This is a little bit different. And what I found was Rabbi Hillel said, the persons who increase their good deeds establish peace within their own bodies. And there's a lot of commentaries about this. And I think the interpretation that I happen to believe very strongly is when we do good deeds and when we treat others with respect, loving kindness, and charitable ways, we feel good. We earn the benefits of peace of mind. We feel satisfied. And we're able to move forward and do more. In NCJW, by doing the work in the search of social justice and human rights, this gives us, each one of us, the peace of mind that we're doing something good to make the world a much better place. And I know we will continue to move forward doing this. Again, I want to thank you for the privilege of serving as your president for the past 3 years. This past year, I want to thank Cindy Pashery, who you'll hear from soon, for working with me this past year. And I want to wish you a Shana Tova and let it be a safe and a COVID-free year ahead. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Cindy?
I'm here. I have a quote from Notorious RBG that's so appropriate for today. There is a sense that time is precious and you should enjoy and thrive in what you are doing to the hilt. Thank you all very much for sharing this time with me. And as we move forward together, I wish you nothing but peace and good health. Lashan Tova.
Thank you, Cindy. And thank you. And now I'd like to call on Diane Steinbrink. Diane, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Okay. I am grateful for the opportunity today and the honor of paying tribute to these two wonderful, wonderful past presidents. We are very blessed in this section with the quality of leadership that has been ours for many years. I will start with Cindy, who I have never knew before my NCJW affiliation and have come to know and love. You served for several years first as our recording secretary. And I think that's an important thing to mention because you helped to document our section's history. And that's an important thing for us to have and for future generations and members to be able to know and see. You did it with great accuracy and you did it with a great sense of wanting to be helpful. And we thank you for that piece of your work too. And the last year, as you stepped into the co-presidency to help Barbara, you filled in many spaces and you helped our section continue to make a difference in the community, which I think is so important. You strengthened our leadership team, and that's a great credit to the section and certainly a great credit to you. You did this with a great sense of input and with a wonderful sense of humor, which I have to tell you was appreciated by your NCJW sisters. We are grateful to you, Cindy, and we thank you. And of course, we hope you will stay with us for many years to come. And we have a gift for you to say thank you. Ellen Meerbach, are you there?
I am here.
Okay. Since this gift has to be virtual, and someday we hope it can be presented to you in person, we would like you to look at this in your home and think of us and think of our gratitude to you each time you do see it. And we thank you.
Oh,
Ellen?
thank you so much. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. My pleasure and the section's pleasure.
Thanks.
Barbara, I want to paraphrase something from Albert Einstein that really has always spoken to me. And my paraphrasing is, leadership introduces a person to herself. And I think it is a very significant phrase. Barbara, your strength in leadership for the 2 years that you served as our president has helped move our section in many new directions because of your beliefs and your vision. You challenged us to make a difference in time and time again, and you did it with a lot of, I would say, support for those of us who were in those leadership positions. Your support and your thank yous as a leader for our work was always there. And I think the thank yous are something that people do appreciate and many leaders forget to do. And you never did. The emails that followed us after we did something for the section meant a great deal to us in how you recognized what we were trying to do. We hope that your advice will always be a part of our section. And where's Pearl Tragash? Pearl? Okay, we've got to find her because she's got the gift.
Pearl, say something
Pearl.
before you show up. Unmute yourself.
I am unmuted.
Oh, there you are. Okay, very good. This gift to Barbara is a token of our love and our thank you for all you have done and meant to us. We hope to, as you enjoy it in your home for many years to come, and when all of this virtual stuff is over, we hope that we get to present it to you in person so that you can place it in your home. It comes with our love and a great big thank you for all that you have meant to this section. Pearl, where's Pearl so she can show the gift?
She's showing you. She's up there. You're just not seeing her. But
Oh,
we'll-
okay.
we-
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Pearl, hold it up again.
Pearl, say something.
Okay.
There.
In appreciation for your leadership and dedication, National Council of Jewish Women, Greater Philadelphia,
Oh,
President 2017 to 2020. Here, maybe if I stand up like this, you can see.
There it is. We can see it.
Yeah, she's only 3 people down. Why don't you just hand it to her?
There you go.
I'm gonna
Very
do
good.
it square.
Okay. I would like to close these remarks with something that I think talks to all of us. In these pandemic times, we continue to see time and again the spirit of NCJW women. They remain ever resilient even in these difficult times, just as they were a generation past. And we echo that spirit of our founder, Hannah G. Solomon. Thank you all, and God bless you all, and Lashana Tova.
Thank you, Diane. And now, for a very important part of our program, Diane Steinbrink will now be honoring our
Joan Sachs.
Joan Sachs, I'm sorry, Joan Sachs. You are now unmuted, Joan. Where are you?
I'm here. Diane's good company. So, okay. Again, I'm honored to conduct our installation of officers for this year. We commend this past year's leadership for another successful year and look forward to our new board with continuation and growth of our NCJW section. First, I want to recognize the people who served on this past year's board. Some of you will first be discharged and then reinstated. Diane, I'm going to ask you to mute, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Muted.
Barbara Nussbaum and Cindy Pescari as co-presidents, Charlene Curlin, Joyce Eveloff, and Donna Bader, vice presidents for programs and education, Charlotte Schwartz, vice president for community service, Linda Lempert, vice president for advocacy, Patty First, Linda Abrams, fundraising vice presidents, Pearl Tragash as treasurer, Margie Zuckerman as assistant treasurer, Harriet Winokur as financial secretary, Susan Chase, recording secretary, and Bobby Berman, corresponding secretary. You are the people who made last year possible. Congratulations to all of you for another successful year and a job well done. Again, I'm going to be redundant after Diane's lovely speech to you. Thank our presidents, our co-presidents, Cindy Pescari and Barbara Nussbaum. We will miss your leadership, your innovation, and devotion to the section. We are indebted to both of you for your dedication and service, and I hope that both of you will continue to be involved. I now duly discharge all of you from your duties as officers of the Greater Philadelphia section of the National Council of Jewish Women. And in our hearts, we give you a big round of applause. So, all right, now, hopefully our officers have unmuted, and I don't know how this is going to work.
Ask them to unmute now.
Yeah, if you'll unmute now.
Just the officers.
Just the incoming officers. Because now I would like to introduce you to our new board. And as I call your name, will you please say hello, and hopefully you will come up on the screen. So first is Charlene Curlin.
Hello.
Not me.
Patty First.
Happy New Year.
Anywhere? I don't know if this is going to work.
It's
And
working.
Donna Bader.
Hi, here I am.
Okay. Vice Presidents for Programs and Education. You will plan programs for our regular monthly meetings and also oversee or initiate special study groups such as our book club. Eileen Salas,
Hello.
and Linda Brosco.
Hello.
Great. As vice presidents for community service, you will involve us and oversee community projects such as our school tutoring program, Goodies for the Good Guys, Great Chef Breakfast at Ronald McDonald House, Holocaust Contest, involvement with the Holocaust Remembrance Center, and toiletries for Dawn's Place. Liz Downing.
Hi, everybody.
Advocacy Vice President, you will keep us informed as our legislative watchdog on proposed state and federal bills that involve our priorities. You will oversee our advocacy committee to help us contact our legislators to bring about change and safeguard our individual rights. You will also work closely with the state policy advocate. Ellen Mirbach.
Hello.
And Donna Spector.
Hello.
Okay, I don't see Donna, but.
Yeah, Donna's there.
I see her. Vice presidents for membership, you will continue to be responsible for recruiting new members and integrating them into the section. With your committee, you will also work on retention of our current members and plan our annual membership event. Ann Pollock.
Mashanatova.
Great. As vice president for fundraising, you will plan and carry out or oversee special events to raise money for the section to conduct its business, such as theater trips, taste of culture, and painting with a twist. Pearl Tragash.
Hi.
Pearl, for some reason, I don't seem to get you, but all right, I know you're there. You are responsible for the collection of all monies through dues, donations, and special fundraising events. You will keep track of our financial commitment to our national organization, and together with the board, make up and oversee our budget and give regular updated financial reports at board meetings and give quarterly budget reports. You will also file our tax returns and chair our financial committee. Margie Zuckerman, and Margie informed me that she's not going to come up, that we won't be able to see her.
She's here, though.
She's here by phone.
Okay. As assistant treasurer, she will act on the treasurer's absence when she is unavailable. She will also participate on the budget committee and the financial committee. Harriet Winokur.
Here I am. Do you see me?
Yes. As financial secretary, you will continue to maintain lists of all current membership names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, membership status, that is life, paid and unpaid members, and will report to our national organization and board. Susan Chase. Here.
Susan.
Susan, well, oh, good. Susan Chase, our recording secretary. You continue to take minutes at our monthly board meetings, keep files and copies of past minutes. You're responsible for distribution of minutes to all board members and to our national organization. Bobby Berman.
Hello.
Hi. You'll send notices of monthly board meetings and bulletin deadlines to all board members. Also send out any special notices to our members. You will receive and carry out all section correspondence. With Rosh Hashanah, our new year, we look to change and new beginnings. And again, I'm bringing up Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She has said, time is on the side of change. As a new board is a new beginning. You have new ideas and innovations. I encourage you to embrace them. This year, we have a presidium in place of a president. It consists of 5 vice presidents, one from each of the vice presidential areas. The following people will serve as part of the presidium, in addition to their duties for their particular vice presidency: Char Curlin, Elizabeth Downing, Ellen Mirbach, Linda Brosco, and Ann Pollock. You will work together to carry out the programs and conduct the business of the section. Your leadership will set goals and see them through to help our section grow. You will represent the section to the community. All of you as a team should remember your interdependence. Without membership and fundraising, there would be no community service, advocacy, or programs. Without community service, advocacy, or programs, there is no need for membership and fundraising. All of the officers have the responsibility for the future of the section. I now duly declare you installed as officers of the Greater Philadelphia section of the National Council of Jewish Women, and I would like to be the first to congratulate all of you. Lashana Tova.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you so much, Joan. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Before you go, we have a couple of announcements to make. Sherry Cohn, would you like to?
Yeah, we're going to do our first collection for Mitzvah Circle on Tuesday, September 29th. We're limited as to what they're collecting. There'll be something different every month. We're collecting boys and men's clothing, either new or gently used, boys or men's shoes, used or gently used, new or gently used. Please rubber band them together. Gently used or new toys, toiletries, socks, and underwear. And I will be at the Ben and Irv's parking lot from 10 to 12 on Tuesday, September 29th. So if you have anything to donate, please meet me there. And if you get closer to 12, we'll have lunch. I also would like to ask if there's anybody that would like to volunteer to work with me with Mitzvah Circle. As long as the plague is on, we're just going to be doing collections like this so that, and I'll talk to people who are interested about going into Mitzvah Circle itself. They have very limited time where we could go in and help sort. But more importantly, this is the thing they need. Also, if you go on their website, they have an Amazon wish list. So if you can't come and make a donation or whatever, and still feel the need to help them, which I hope you will do, if you go on their website, you'll see their Amazon wish list. All you have to do is click on it and they'll send stuff directly to them. And also baby wipes. They also desperately need baby wipes. So my name and information will be in the bulletin that's coming out. And I think there's an email blast that's also coming out. So I hope all of you can help donate. This is a worthy organization, and they are, because of the coronavirus, they're really low on supplies. So anything we can do to help them. Thank you.
And I'll be there too to help you, Sherry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Sherry. I have a couple of announcements. One, if you've tried to get on our website today, Mal is working on it. There are some changes being made, and so our website has been down for a little bit. Don't panic, it will be back up. He's currently working on it. Yeah, you may need to clear your cache in the future if you don't know how to do it. I think your husbands or your wives or whoever may be able to help you. And the other announcement is I want to again reiterate a thank you to our sponsors for today's program, Carol Aronoff, in honor of our incoming officers, and Sheila Rothkopf in honor of her grandchildren. I want to remind everyone that our next program is Tuesday, October the 13th, Jewish Women and Suffrage. This is our 100th anniversary. The bulletin will be going out. The flyer will be in the bulletin. It is also currently up on our website. So if we do already have a number of people who have signed up, if you haven't registered yet, please remember to do so. And thank you all so much. The other thing, one more thing, Liz, do you want to tell them about the advocacy alerts? and other alerts that are coming up? If you could unmute.
Sure. I'm hoping all of you saw on the newsletter, and I sent out another email to our advocacy group. We're now moving over to this wonderful new platform called MailChimp. Thank you, Ellen. Which will make it easier for us to send out information to those of you who want it. And what we really want to know is how many of you really want our advocacy alerts? We don't want to bombard people that don't want them. But in addition, in the MailChimp survey that we just sent out, and hopefully all of you saw it. If you didn't, please check it on the newsletter that will be coming out shortly. In addition to signing up for advocacy alerts, you could also check to sign up for membership alerts or program alerts or any of the other committees, because what we're doing is we're trying to target everybody. I personally signed up for all the alerts because I want all of them, but not all of you may not. So please take a moment to sign up for that. And once we get that up and running, once again, we're in a transition and we're hoping to use that in the future for all of our e-blasts and alerts, and you'll get the information that you are most interested in. Okay? Thanks, Char.
Thank you, Liz. And also a reminder that we do have a new Facebook page. Please go on and like our page. Look for current events coming up, and what was that? Follow it. Yes, and please hit follow so that you get notifications when things are put up on the Facebook page. Thank you, everyone. I think this was successful. Wherever you are in the country, Shana Tova, enjoy, stay healthy, wear your masks, and I hope to see everyone for the next event. And I hope to see everyone in person.
Yes.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
I'm ready to call Giant whenever.
Okay.
Thank you, Char.
Bye.
Thank you, Char, for all your work.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Char. It was a very successful day.
Okay.
Thank you,
Char.
Char.
You,
Excellent
everybody.
Thank
program.
you. Congratulations to all the officers.
Congratulations,
Donna,
everybody.
fabulous. Wonderful program, guys. Bye-bye. Everybody be well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Everybody stay healthy.
You too.
Yep. Okay, you too.
All right.